Hello, everybody. I hope you are all well. Um, I don't have anything very exciting to update you on in terms of the course or the qualification or anything like that. But I do have a couple of things I just need to talk through with you before we get started on the lesson. So the first one is those of you that have any HCP. I don't know if you are aware, but you are able to access the college during the lockdown. So if you are having real issues working from home, perhaps if some of you, I know some of you are working on iPads, or some of you are having to share your computer and things with siblings and stuff. So if you're finding that really hard, then just let me know, because we can, I think there's only about 6 students that are going into the college, so it's really quite safe, and they're obviously following quite strict social distancing rules while there. So yeah, there's room where you can potentially be going in and doing some work. There it's unsupervised. I won't be there. I think, as far as I'm aware, you basically go in, you sign in, and then they tell you where to go and do some work. The library's open, but there's nobody in there. There's just one person who's on main reception. So if that seems like something that you would like to explore, then just send me an email and we'll see what we can do. Unfortunately, it only applies to those of you that have any HCP. But if others of you are having difficulty working from home, as I've said many times, just send me an email about it and we'll see what we can do to make things easier for you. The other thing is that your short film analysis is due on Thursday, so please get that in. I'm going to set some more work for you to do today for the week. If you're finding that you're really whizzing through everything and you're kind of getting the assignments done in a day and you want more, then just let me know and I can set you more work to do. I am limiting how much I'm setting because some of you, as I say, some of you are finding it quite difficult to work from home. So I don't want to overload those people with too much work, but that does mean that those of you that do have the time and are able to are running out of stuff to do. But yeah, I can set you more if you want me to. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so the lesson today is on character profiles and story development. So we're going to be covering 3 different things. We're going to be covering how to write a good character profile and why it's important. We're going to talk a little bit about stereotyping, and then I've got some ideas for you for your story development. So I don't know how far some of you are with writing your short films, but hopefully this lesson will help you to kind of bring those stories together a little bit more. The story is obviously the most important part of this project, and it's really important that you get that kind of bang on. From some of the proposals, the actual story element of the short film has been very vague and very brief, so it really needs working on and developing even more so that you can actually tell a really decent story. So I'm hoping that this might help you. So we're going to start off by doing a character profile. So what is it? It's an in-depth analysis of the characters in your film. So this would include age, gender, name, job, family, what kind of house they live in, where they live, if they live in a village or a town or a city or a farm or something like that. Their socioeconomic status, so are they from a lower class family? Are they from a working class family? Are they super duper rich? Are they not very well off at all? And kind of where they stand in terms of their job, like are they professional people, or are they sort of more of the working class? What are their likes and dislikes? What are their fears? Who are their friends? What are their ambitions? So it's really kind of, it's building on who this person is and what is kind of driving them, which is the main purpose of writing this character development, because your character has a purpose. They have a motive in your film, and it's really important to figure out what it is that drives them towards achieving their goals and their dreams, and it also will help to give your story some depth. This doing a character development is really helpful when you come to write your scripts, and when you come to write dialogue, because it'll help you understand your characters a little bit more and make you think a bit more about how they will respond in certain situations. You know, if they're really fearful of the dark, then when you put them in a situation where there's a power cut, then you know that their response to that is going to be quite negative. So it's really helpful to kind of put a character profile together to really understand who your characters are. So I've just got a couple of examples for you. One is a character that I'm sure at least 90% of you will know who he is, and the other one is one that I've made up. So the first one is Tony Stark. So if I was to be writing a character profile for Tony Stark, this is the kind of thing that I would say. So Tony Stark is a tech billionaire in his early 40s. So we've got his name, his socioeconomic status, and his age. His mother and father both died in a tragic car accident when Tony was in his early 20s. He has no siblings or other family that we are aware of, so that covers his family. Upon his father's death, he became the CEO of Stark Industries, a weapons manufacturer. He is a genius and has incredible talent when it comes to technological advancements. So that kind of gives you a background on him, where he is in the world at this point in time. What's happened to his family has kind of led him to where he is and what he does. He is a known playboy and enjoys the company of women and alcohol. He parties very hard and works even harder. None of these women serve as anything more than a one-night stand, as his real love and passion is in his work. So I haven't gone into any detail here about what kind of led him there. So I didn't go into his capture with the terrorists or his relationship with Pepper, because it's talking more about him as a whole. But if you wanted to go into specifics, then you can. This is really just quite vague. So things that he doesn't like people handing him things, and he doesn't like not being in control. He has a big ego and is very arrogant. However, he is also very lovable and tries to do what is right for everyone, etc. So, for someone like Tony Stark, you know so much about him because he's been in so many films and he's such a massive character. You could write quite an in-depth character profile on him. A lot of this came from knowledge, but also I had to do a little bit of research to kind of understand a few things, especially about like his age when his father died and things like that. So yeah, you may have to do a bit of research. So that is a really kind of brief character profile for Tony Stark. So this is one that I've made up. So Raven Jones is a 17-year-old college student. She lives in a 3-bedroom semi-detached house in a small village with her 2 young sisters and parents. She's very close to their parents and sisters, but even closer with her grandmother, who she spends a lot of time with, following the passing of her grandfather. At school, she studies biology. She wants to follow in her father's footsteps and become a doctor. So that's her drive. That's what her ambition is. She has 3 very close friends who she sees at the weekends and speaks to online. She enjoys keeping fit and listening to music. Her favourite genre is rock music. When she hangs out with her friends, she usually goes to the cinema, cafe or park. So again, it's very brief, but it kind of hits most of those points about her age, her background, her family, where she lives, what she does, what drives her, what motivates her, what her kind of goals and her ambitions are, a little bit about her family and her friends and her interests. So that's the kind of thing that you need to be putting together, but in a lot more detail than that. Okay. So one thing that's really, really important is avoiding stereotypes. So try and be creative with your character profiles and do a little bit of research if you think that will be helpful. So if you've got, if your main character is, say, a young Asian boy from, say, China, you might want to do a little bit of background research into the typical life of an Asian teenage boy, rather than just thinking, oh, he probably is really into like tech, or he eats sushi every day, because that's kind of what you would typically associate with an Asian teenager. It may not necessarily be true. So do a little bit of research, especially when doing things like family and background and names and things. You may need to kind of look that up. Really try to think about your character's interests and what motivates them. avoid stereotyping based on age, gender, background, or race. So that's really important, as I've just kind of mentioned. This can often be perceived as laziness and shows a real lack of creativity. One film that does this horrendously is Pitch Perfect. So you've got 8 girls here, 8 women, and they've all been horrendously stereotyped according to their predominantly their race, and in some case their size. So the 4 white girls are pretty, they're popular, they have, you know, a couple of them have boyfriends, one of them is kind of very sort of sexual, they're just very sort of typical, nice, like your very typical average American girl. There's nothing particularly interesting about them apart from the fact that they can sing. So they're sort of your average characters. Then you have your Latino character here, and she's been stereotyped as, you know, they're always making jokes about her crossing the border. They make diarrhea jokes about her. They make jokes about her being an immigrant, about her hiding from the law, about drugs, about the village that she lives from, and things like that. Like, it really is very, very stereotypical of a Latino person, and it's completely inaccurate. Like, some of those things may be true, but it's just stereotyping her horrendously. And then you've got the African American character here, who, with her sort of size and shape, has been stereotyped as a lesbian, and she has a gambling problem. It's just not very kind towards her at all. And then you have Amy here, who is overweight, and she's even called Fat Amy, and she's the butt of all the jokes. All her jokes are around her size, and her kind of attitude towards being a larger person. And while she does embrace that, and that is, you know, that's a good thing, it is still really stereotyping her as the overweight funny friend, rather than giving her the qualities that you would associate with the 4 other white girls. And then you've got the Asian girl here, she's really weird, which is, again, really stereotypical of Asian people, is that they're stereotyped as being really strange and really weird people, which, again, is just really unkind. So the kind of qualities that these 4 white girls have are not present in the other girls, which is what is really quite bad about this film. You know, going against those stereotypes, you'd make the Latina girl like the main girl, and the chubby girl would be the really, really smart one that's kind of in charge of everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't need to be stereotyping, which is what I would really like you to avoid doing when you come up with your character profiles. So character profiles are really important, and it's something that this is what your task today will mostly be on, is creating a character profile for, like I have done, for somebody that you know from a film, and then making up, well, for one of your characters from your own film, or if you're a couple of you are doing a documentary. So if you're doing a documentary, then you can just make one up, make up a character profile, or you can do a character profile on the subject of your documentary if you like, whichever one kind of garners the most creativity from you. It's up to you, because, yeah, as I said, it really does kind of help you delve into those characters a little bit more. So just moving on really quickly to story development. There's a few, I'm going to set you some exercises tomorrow, but I just want to touch upon it a little bit now, in case some of you are at this point where you're writing your story. The kind of tips that I can give you, I suppose, for developing your stories is to use a structure. So have your beginning, your middle and end marked out. I know quite a few of you have already done that with your proposals, which is really great. Or you could use Todorov's equilibrium theory if you want to, and kind of map out the story by using that. I've said it many, many times before, but you need to think about your conflicts. A short story is nothing without a conflict in it, because it's something that your characters work towards, and it's something they work around and they get over, and they, it gives your story an anchor point where everything is kind of focused around this one thing that's kind of happening. Another good tip, if you're really into like writing, which I know quite a few of you are, then you could write the whole thing out as a short story if you want to, which will really, really help you kind of explore characters and locations and backgrounds. You can start to map out dialogue if you write it out as a short story. So yeah, that's quite a good exercise to try. Use mood boards to visualize certain places or scenes. So if you've got a certain scene that's taking place in like a woodland or something, then you could maybe put a mood board together for your woodland scene, and have pictures of dark trees and mysterious fog and things like that to kind of really bring it to life before you actually make it. And the most important thing I think to consider is, what is your point? What are you trying to say with this story? What's the kind of message that you want to convey to people? Are you just simply trying to tell a story? Or are you trying to do a little bit more than that? Are you trying to is there a moral to your story? Is there a purpose to your story? Is it something that's kind of personal to you and you want to explore that a little bit through story? Really kind of think about that. And yeah, we'll go into these things in a little bit more detail tomorrow. But I just wanted to put them up there in case some of you are at this point where you're ready to or you may even have already started writing your story out and putting your story together. Okay, so it's just a short one today, really, because I'm just conscious that you've still got your short film analysis task to do, and now I'm giving you some more work to do. As I keep saying, just stay in contact with me all the way through this project. I'm on the end of the email, or we can have a phone tutorial if you want. It's completely up to you. I know most of you are working quite well in your pairs, but again, if that's something that is becoming a struggle, then just let me know, and I can intervene. Okay? All right, I hope you are all keeping well, and I shall catch up with you next week. Bye.